Am now live. Okay, so hi everybody. It is day one of NaNoWriMo, and I totally forgot I'm gonna need to have to make something for my IG um, placeholder or whatever. So right now I'm streaming on IG as well as my YouTube and Facebook. And the idea is basically I'm going to demonstrate my process for writing, how I get through the books. And we're going to try and finish this book that I've been working on or wanting to work on for a while, but I've only done the first part and I've been pretty scared, I think, to dive into the later acts of the book. And you can tell the majority of the story, the main character, from this perspective. So I'll kind of go more into it. But yeah, I wanted to talk about that and yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing from here on out. So you'll be going here on NaNoWriMo. Now, on IG, I can only show the face or whatever, so I don't think too many people will be able to see that. But there's a caveat. If you want to see the actual writing and what I'm doing, you can jump in on Facebook and YouTube, which I'll have here, because when I start writing, I'm going to show you my process, which is how I use my tracker to keep track of how far along I get with my writing, as well as just sort of the way I compile data sort of to maximize my process and part of the prolific process that I use for my company as well as just for myself, um, obviously. And so, yeah, let's talk a little bit about like what we're doing today, right? So usually before I write, I like usually try to prime myself with something pretty motivational. I just watched like a clip about Kobe Bryant, and that kind of gets my mind thinking and ready to focus, right? And so part of that ritual is to sort of call out the part of you that likes to tell stories, right? I think oftentimes that part of you needs to get running and build up quite a bit of momentum before you ever put your fingers to the keyboard, or else it's going to be really, really hard. And most of the time, when you're starting to write, you're just spending all that time building up the motivation. Whereas if you learn how to prime that before you start, by the time you actually get on the keyboard, you're off to the races, right? And so usually I'll be thinking about what I'm going to write before I actually sit down, and I'll watch something to sort of get my emotional reserves ready to tap in and launch with the rocket or whatever. And so that's the first part of the process. And sorry, I'm kind of looking between the two cameras, so if that's a little disheartening for people, I apologize. Um, but yeah, so let's talk about the actual project and just jump into it because it's NaNoWriMo day one. And so you're supposed to, the idea behind NaNoWriMo is that you're supposed to do an entire original novel. But I've had this novel on for a while, right? And it's been something that I've been needing and wanting to do. Um, and it's been a really huge passion project of mine. Uh, let's talk about the tracker here. This is what I call the prolific tracker that I use in my company. So the idea behind the tracker is that here, so we can see hours invested, total words written, and the remaining words. This is based off of the goal, right? So what I do is I put a goal here um, in for the draft, right? So my first draft goal was 90,000 words, right? And the idea of this tracker is it will tell you sort of the averages of the different things you do as you use it, right? So here I know that well, this is a little of a bit of a dummy exercise. So we're actually going to need to create something a little fresh because I have this first part of The Wind of the Waves, which I wrote ages ago, right? And so that comes up to about 11,000 words so far. It was 2.73 hours invested was the time I spent kind of going through editing and correcting it. And that's what you guys see here. So way back in April, I was going through, I was reading it, and then I would color code it based off of how I was moving each of those days. And basically what I do is I was just going through, I was editing it, I was maybe changing some words here and there, and I was working through my tracker. And then around May 23rd, I stopped. Obviously, I got rid of all that stuff. So we're going into the fourth week of the tracker, right? And in that fourth week, let's see here, we're starting on November 1st today. And so the idea is it's going to be 5 weeks, so about 35 days. Obviously, that's NaNoWriMo is only going to be 30 days. So the goal is to try and get it done before that. So a little over 4 weeks, right? So 4 weeks and 2 days. So that's the goal here. And in order to do that, to complete the 78,671 words over 30 days, we're looking at something like 2,300, no, 2,600 words, something like that. Let me pull up a calculator here just so we know. And that way, that'll give us a target, right? And then we'll be able to keep track of progress. And that's really important because it just helps us see where and how we're doing and progressing. Now, you don't use this to like beat yourself up, obviously. I think when I first started using this tracker, it was just to see what I could do based off of how I felt. So, based off of what I would do in the color coding, I'd see, okay, what do I do in the color coding? How did I produce? And then ultimately, you're just using it to keep track of it that way. It's not used to like judge yourself or beat yourself up. It's just to understand better how you can get to your goals, right? So yeah, 2,600 words, 2,603, 2,633 words, 34 words a day is needed to catch this. We'll see if we can do that. I'm usually gonna really try and write 1 hour, and then based off of how fast I'm going, I might have to put another hour where I'll stream 1 hour and then maybe I'll write the other hour alone privately. And that's probably how I'll start approaching this, just to try and get this project done, because I do that as well as work with my company and stuff. So yeah, that's part of it. Anyway, so I could talk forever about everything that's going on with this or whatever. Um, Hello. But yeah, so we're just going to try and do this novel in a month. That's National Writing Month. And so that's it. So, what I'm going to do, part of that priming, right, is I'm going to talk through the scenes that I'm going to write today. And then when we're done talking through those scenes, I'll write them, right? And the idea is that if I've talked myself through them, I'll have an idea of what are the characters, what is the setting I need to make, and where are my holes, right? Because there are some things that I have as just placeholders. Like I still call the school, which is the main character school, Calvin and Hobbes. That's a terrible name for a school, and I'm going to need to change that later. But that's what we're doing here for now. So anyway, um, let's. So this is the tracker, right? And so we'll keep track of the minutes and the timer when we actually start working, and then we're. So I have my laptop, my iPad here, which I keep track of, for calculating and stuff. But I'll be keeping track of my timer. So once I start actually like working, I'll just have a stopwatch here, right? Um, no, it's not even stopwatch. Maybe sometimes I work by stopwatch, sometimes I work by timer. I think today I'll work by stopwatch just to see how far I can go and push myself. And that's what I'm going to do probably for this first week. And then after I get the data off how I felt this first week pushing myself like that, I'll start scheduling the time into the second week so I have an idea of what I should be able to manage to do so I can hit my goals, right? A lot of this is just working and really figuring out where you at and how to figure that out. And so part of whenever you're starting any new project, I think it's really good for like that first week, do your best to like spurt out, really exhaust yourself every single day, keep track of what your progress was each day. And then after that, really schedule in a disciplined time and do that. Some people, it's better for the reverse. Me personally, I just like shooting out as much as I can, pushing myself to exhaustion, and then tapering back so that I know how to manage my energy reserves during the time I'm writing. That way I can balance it out and really schedule it with everything else, especially if I'm doing something long term. Like if it's one or like if I'm giving myself 3 months to write it, I might be more of a marathon. But if I'm sprinting, I definitely want to see what is my sprinter's pace, right? So that I can push that there and really set the stage properly for myself. So yeah, that's what we're going to do today. So let's talk a little bit about what we're hoping to do. Let's just talk about chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, right, of the outline. So I wrote them on a buffet card from a Chinese buffet. I try to write them sometimes in the actual text or whatever, but it's never worked for me. So yeah, that's just not how it's going to be today. So um, let's talk about what am I doing? Let's talk about the first chapter, right? And go from there. And so the Wind of the Waves, we're going to be starting off with Callum, right? He's the main character, Callum MacArthur. So Callum, he's half black, half white. He grew up as a ward of a school, so he doesn't know who his parents are. And he's 13 years old. His best friend, Sabrina, is this British/American girl. She always goes to the States during the summers, but then, goes to school in Britain. And so she comes back every year. And this year, they're going into what would be the equivalent of basically the ninth grade. Um, and so essentially, it's like they're going into high school or whatever. And so as a result, there's lot of big changes in the school or whatever. And now this story takes place in 2012, right? The initial part of it. The reason I do that is because phones are just coming online, like smartphones, and like kids are just starting to get them and stuff like that. And one of the big conflicts is that Callum doesn't have a phone, right? And so he's going to feel kind of like left out. So not only is he orphaned, not only if he's a half black kid, but he's also, doesn't have a cell phone. And then when he comes back, Sabrina is, his best friend who we grew up with, and he's starting to really catch feelings for her because he really missed her this summer. But when he sees her, she's really distant, I wouldn't say doesn't want anything to do with him, but she's just really distant and she's busy and she's playing basketball. So Callum starts trying to hatch a plan as to how he can get in touch with her, right? He's like, okay, well, how can I start getting to know her better, right? And so our goal, and I always try to have one goal to know where I end it, because the biggest thing is you always want to start on a hook and you want to end your chapters with a cliffhanger that's essentially like builds up to something interesting, right? So the cliffhanger for chapter 1 is Callum just sort of comes to terms with the fact that Sabrina is in fact avoiding him, right? And so where he'll do some things, he'll try to get close with her, he'll come up kind of needy, and then at the end of the chapter, it will be like, oh, okay, there's no doubt Sabrina is avoiding me, right? And that's going to be the end of chapter 1. So that's the sort of emotional hit that I'm going for. So in terms of like consciousness scale, that's a lot of fear, a lot of desire, a lot of shame, and that's what we're shooting for emotionally. So I'm going to start high, and the idea is like I'm going to try and drag us down emotionally, because all that fear and all that doubt, right? And that will hook the person into the next chapter. And then yeah, that's the first chapter. And so let's see how I actually do in writing that. So a couple things going into Scrivener when you keep track of your writing. So you can keep track of what you've written in a session, right? And so here my target, I have 25K in the first half of the document, which is that other part, because I haven't edited the basically half of it. So at the end of the day, when this book is all done, it will probably be about 100,000 words, right? But we're going to shoot for 75K in this part with Callum, because he's the main character moving forward. I'm trying to make sure it's on StreamYard. So let me make sure that this pulls up here and that you guys are able to see this. So let me share my screen. He's sharing the screen. Okay, let me share my screen. So be smarter than the computer. I'm always figuring that out. Okay, I'm just going to share my entire screen and we'll go from there. I just trust that you guys will be able to see my handsome mug as you need to. We're going into the Twilight Zone. Okay, so we're on Scrivener now. And so as you can see here with Scrivener, why I like it is because, it's probably the best novel writing software out there, in my humble opinion, but, I'm just a simple man. So you use this, you can see what your targets are for the word. So here I have 2560. My session target, right, because is 2600, right? That's what we decided, 2634. So you can keep track. And then once I do that, I hit that. Now I can exit. Now I know I've only gotten 0 words of that so far, right? Here, I'll be able to see my target, right, for the start. And so every time when I want to see how far I've come, I'll just do control comma, and then I get to see how far along. And that bar will fill up as I produce, right? So that's going to be really important to kind of keep track of how you're doing every day. And so filling up that bar is going to be the most important thing. Right now, right? So I always like to say there's 3 writer types, right? There's the storyteller, there's the prose author, and then there's the technician, who's the editor. These 3 oftentimes argue and try to write at the same time and try to do all the same things at the same time. Do not let them do that, especially the technician. The technician is only for editing. So that guy, he just needs to sit back and chill out. And he's like the upper level like CEO who makes all the decisions and stuff like that, and the producer. While the art is being made, he sits back and does not enter the equation. And so when I sat in, I have to tell my inner technician, the guy who's critical, the guy who's technical, who's asking, is this good? All that. That guy, when we're doing a first draft, he doesn't enter the equation. So he's sitting over here right now. And basically for the next month and a half or whatever, he's going to be sitting over here. His time will come though. And when it comes, it will come in power and fury. But his time is over here right now. Right now is the storyteller. So the storyteller is the person who knows the characters, who knows the setting, who really understands the premise of the story, what's making it juicy, right? For this chapter, we're going into this young boy who's essentially been abandoned. It's all he's understood his entire life. He loves this girl, doesn't know he loves her, right? But he loves this girl, and so he's trying to get to know her. And then there's all these obstacles of teenage angst getting in the way, and then he's going to bump into that. And I don't even know the scene yet. I'm thinking I'm going to start it in the classroom and then go from there. And that's kind of the difficult part of this is like I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm a bit of a pantser, but I know that I want to have a couple things happen. They're going to school. He's trying to connect with her, and then there's just all these obstacles. And yeah, that's what we're going to do. And it might be trash, who knows? But once again, the technician's over here. He's not going to handle it. Now, the prose writer, and the storyteller, what's going to happen? They're going to be working together, right? And the prose author will try and make it sound as beautiful and as good as possible. And he's the one that's going to put it down. And he's going to be listening to the storyteller. And you really want to get these guys working together. Now, you might have one that's more powerful than the other, but for me, it's the storyteller. So really try to think which part of you of that is going and have that conversation with yourself and make sure that each of those three aspects of yourself, however they are, understand their roles. And so the author is just putting everything down and listening to the storyteller, and the storyteller is acting things out, doing everything as possible. And so you might see me like while I'm writing, like act things out or say it to myself just so that I can see the scene more properly. And that's just all part of the process, right? And so, yeah. So we have that. The tracker is for today. We're going to put time, we're going to put words. Now I'm going to start the timer and we're just going to go. Now the idea is I'm going to try and shoot for an hour and a half because I've got to start work then. But yeah, let's just try and see how far and how much I can do, right? We're shooting for 2,600 words. I probably won't hit that today, not in one go, but we'll see if I can get it in this first round. I might write a little bit later. But yeah, let's NaNoWriMo day one. If there's any questions or you found any comments or concerns, it's great. But then from here on out, we're just gonna do the writing, right? So we're going in the Callum's part and through the classroom, and let's start. Okay, the class ROM. Okay, technician. We'll clue that. Okay. Okay. Just Where's the technician? Is there any technician? Of course. Sea of loneliness. Going through. Oh, I'm getting self-conscious. Okay, focus, honey. So my friend at school, should have called us home. Of course. Intents and purposes. Was his own. He knew that. Hermfield and Grunts. Is that a good name? Let's try it. Hermfield and Grunts. That's a strange boarding school name. School for learning was all he had ever known. The staff, friendly, and all his life. The assembly hall was his living room. All the children stacked themselves on the bleachers. Many of them were first year students. This would have been a strange environment for them. For him, it was his living room. Yet, those twin basketball hoops at either end of the hall had been a gym previously, and during games was used as such. That doesn't make any sense. It's probably a basketball court, okay? During games was used as such. Still, he felt like a fish out of water. Not by the bowl, but by whom he shared it with. Many of the students had returned as well. He was good too. he considered none of them his friends. There was Junior Bautier. This will need to go earlier. This is Junior, but there's Junior Bautier. Now this is going to look so different when it's edited. There's Junior Bautier, Harry Stringfield. A proper English name. It's a proper English name. William. Turner. Oh God, you cannot do Will Turner. You're wasting too much time. Nilsson. Oh, boys. Played rugby. And there girls. Okay, this is boring. Girls played. Ricky Williams, because that's a good name. So much of this cut. Okay, let's do this. While row seats were placed in the assembly hall. While row seats were placed in the assembly hall. Get to that point. Yes. 12 prefects selected every year. Voting had already been teachers. So the only thing was to see who would be chosen as head boy and head girl. Now, this is important, Oni. Ninth graders? I'm pretty sure it's like ninth graders. Instead of 14-year-olds. Ninth graders. I need to figure out how they do it actually in Britain. Ninth graders. Section. There counts saw her back of her head in a she had her hair in a ponytail like usual. Blonde, dirty, dirty blonde. With ribbons. She is awkward enough. That's not building the scene. Okay, honey. I can feel my inner critic coming out because it's been a while since I've written this scene, so I'm being really critical of myself. I can hear it. So I'm trying to calm myself down so that I don't do that. Because yeah, right now it's just like I'm not loving the prose, but it's because that part of me has been pretty dead for a while. I've been writing in journals and stuff, so I need to have that conversation with myself, which I'm doing right now. Is to just say like, listen, this is going to be edited, and when it is edited, it'll be cleaned up, and we're going to see the scene much better and much clearer. And I think we'll probably even need to rewrite the scene, which I do. I'm a rewriter, so I think it's remembering that that will happen, and that will come after the fact. We'll probably do that in December or whatever. So taking a nice big breath and continuing to tell what I think happens as best I can. Gallon caught sight of her and waved. Let's see. Jamie was classroom, so it's not really a classroom at all, isn't the assembly? Ardor, Veritas. What are the other words? Ardor, Veritas. Max. I can't remember the other Latin words. Latin word for courage. The Latin word is ardor is faith, veritas is truth. So courage, and then the other one's passion, right? Let's go there. Latin words for passion. Hey Google, what's the Latin word for courage?
I don't speak that language yet.
You're Google, how do you not speak Latin? Okay, so I guess I'll have to just look that up later. Hello. He was, of course, in House Ardor. I need to actually start putting a name for each of these streams, don't I? So people know what the heck I'm doing. Okay, so he was, of course, in House Ardor. That he'd been in since the 7th grade. And he was selected in Sabrina. And so very pleased. Now we're just babbling on, so we need to actually start getting into Callum's either his backstory or start talking, because this is just me explaining exposition about the story. So what do we need to do? Troubleshoot. Okay, so we need to go to, okay, so there was a bunch of meetings when the assembly, Callum. I'm thinking about a time a girl rejected me. Um, I did, but respond. Who's your friend, Serena? Who's your friend, Serena? Colin. Colin. This is Barry. This is Barry. Did you say last name was? Allen. Barry Allen. Alan laughed. What's so funny? What's so funny? Oh. Seriously. Okay. What? Yeah. Into my. Into my. Just kidding. Here he is. Name in my. Oh. So so I choose this. It's see you. You are well well informed. MacArthur. See, at least the last bit anyway. No, no, come on. Children, children, it's so. So is Callum gonna have a different homeroom than her? Because they're technically their houses have the same homerooms. What on Alexis? It is time to get to your homerooms. Okay, I'm being critical now. Let's see how many words we have. We have 862 words. And right now, what we've managed to do is introduce Callum and Sabrina. Now, what do we need to do? He needs to get a phone. Of course. We'll just head there. Actually, the basketball team is going to meet then, Callum said. Okay. Actually, the basketball team is going to be meeting. Looking up from his phone. All right. All right. Um, I'll catch you after class. I class done? True. Yeah. At least one together. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. See you then. Took everything in. Come to hide the disappointment in his voice. Sabrina, listen. Go with the boys. Go with the boys. Calum followed the herd to his homeroom. Okay, so now we're in a classroom. Now, what's going on? We need to kind of expedite today. What are some of the issues we need to bring up? We need to bring up how everybody has phones. We need to bring up how Callum is bored in class. We can show that, but we really need to move it along. That assembly scene was kind of useless, I'm not going to lie. I mean, or at least it wasn't written well, but I'm not going to criticize. Everyone has phones. All this section, everyone has phones. The rest of the day was I felt like pulling the lever of a slot machine. Every class, the only engaging part of every class was seeing who was in attendance for the first 5. Oh, I just realized, I just figured out a plot thread. I know why Sabrina's avoiding him. I couldn't discover it, but I know why she's avoiding him now. I know why she's avoiding him now. Okay. So is she going to tell him ever? I need to decide if she ever tells him. I know why Sabrina's avoiding him now. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. The only engaging part of every class was seeing who was in attendance for the first 5 minutes. Hey Google, play my playlist Right Songs.
Okay, then you can be the
You gotta have your playlist going if you want
Here you go.
to write. What was I doing? Writing in silence? Come on. I wonder if it's struggling. What's our timing looking like? We're at 46 minutes. And we've got 993 words. but I don't know if most of it's trash. Feels like it. Feels like it. But it's about my pace. I'm about on pace. But the quality is literally it's not great, guys. I've been doing way too much journal and reflective writing and not enough prose writing. So well, let's get back into that, right? I think we'll rub off the rust in a little bit. I'll probably need to take some courses and stuff. Need to make sure I'm getting plenty of sleep as well, because I kind of wake up early to do it. So we'll figure that out. Chemistry, 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 math, math, math. insert racist comment here because I'm bringing up Callum's race, and I realized there was a joke about him being black and playing basketball, but we need to insert one here so the audience kind of gets that. Oh wait, so Callum looks different because part of that the dialogue is I don't want people assuming Callum is black. I wanted to kind of surprise them because that's kind of the point of what I'm trying to drive home. So, like I want white kids to read the first three pages and think, oh, there's this white kid, and then I want this dramatic change, and like, oh wait, Callum's black, you know, but not have Callum worry about it until somebody else brings it up. So actually, and yeah, actually, someone else should bring it up, right? And I think that's why I specifically describe himself, because I want this idea that Callum doesn't really see himself. Right? It's kind of one of his arcs is that he kind of denies talking too much about himself or really getting into his story, especially visually, because there's a lot of pain and sensitivity there, and so he just sort of like is always looking for Sabrina or looking, or really only Sabrina or like subjects, right? He pours himself into subjects like Miyoku, his father, right? So actually, this idea of him bringing it up and feeling out of place, I don't want him to think about that until someone makes a comment. Someone needs to comment on his race. Then he starts to spiral, and that's when you become. That's when the veil is pulled back, and the reader's like, oh shit, like I've been in a black kid's head the whole time. I mean, he's half black, right? Yeah, he's black. Um, and I think it actually might make him a little darker. So like, you know what I mean? Like, there's like the what have black kids who are actually pretty light, but he's actually going to be a little darker. So I'm thinking that's probably what's going to do it. There's like half of kids who are like, oh yeah, you look at you and you're like, yo, black, even though he's a little light skinned. I know half black kids who are darker than like full kids who have two black parents. But you look at Steph Curry and you see both his parents, and you're like, what the frick? Like, your parents are black. Why are you so light skinned? Yeah, that's just Steph Curry. So yeah. Um, so what that means is we've gone from being really elated. So now, okay. Yeah. So Callum's pretty far ahead, and now he needs to start daydreaming. And we need to talk about a dream he had. This is where we start talking about the dream. Being ahead. Okay. Oftentimes told and that's a or town. Right. I didn't talk about Colin's dream. Actually thinking of maybe placing the dream in one of the chapters. But I actually think I might have to just write about it. Right? Maybe a palace on a mountain overlooking the sea. Now, if you'll have read the first section of this book, you'll know this is referring to Eurios, which is in the first part of the book, right? But and by this time, so the reader is going to be like, oh snap, like a palace overlooking a mountain. This is where you're going to get that first sort of seed of connection to what you just read earlier with, the king and stuff like that. So I realize I'm trying to open it up, like it's a strong opening and things like that. But I'm realizing, like, the book reads as possible. People have already, they've already read quite a bit into this. So this is just an abrupt change, right? And they're like, what the heck? How is this connecting back? And I am shooting for that abrupt change. I want people to be looking for something. So I guess I got to give them this calendar and be like, why am I with this angsty boy? Why is this important? And so this will be the first inkling of it. This is the maelstrom of Urios, right? That covers the entire west and covers the entire eastern sea, right? And that's what locked off Nemen in the dark continent from Urios, right? That's the maelstrom that Callum's seeing right now. It's the endless storm. So hopefully, if you would have read the first part, you will know what I'm referring to here. And so you'll be like, oh shoot, so he's dreaming of Urios. And hopefully that will keep the reader sort of engaged in Callum's little drama till you see how it ties back. And, because it's how he's tying to the wind of the waves, right? Which we haven't even introduced, but we're going to introduce it in the third chapter here. So this will technically be like the eighth chapter, probably, because Lily's part is about, you're a good part of the way through the book by then. That's the first quarter of the book. And then the next three quarters, you know, the last 25% is Callum. But, yeah, he was laying in bed and saw that across the sea and a balance light was carried on the wind along with a voice. A voice was trying to say something. But when Callum opened the window to listen, dark, dark shadow enveloped him, and he dark shadow. Oh, Did you have something to add, Mr. MacArthur? Okay, so where is he? He's done chemistry, he's done math, he's done social studies, English. So now I think they're in their ethics class, and we'll tie that in because I think they have 5 class schedule. You know, so 2 in the morning, or 3 in the morning, or 4 in the morning, then like 2 at night. So a 6 class schedule, right? Yeah, 6 class schedule. That's like normal for England, right? And then they break out at like 2 o'clock. I think that's normal. So ethics class. Um, Ethics and morality. That's what he's going to answer. Did you have something to add, Mr. MacArthur? Um, what? What? Of course, it was Mr. Connolly giving Callum a hard time. What class? What class was this? Class was this? You, you seem to have something to say about what we'll be studying this semester. Right, right. I, Callum, looked at the board and scanned his syllabus. It was, and it was, it was ethics. Right. It was ethics. Right. Of course. Did you repeat the? Of course, he was ready. Could you repeat the question? Could you repeat, or rather, but one of I do not believe it is a lie. Then it is not ethical and a moral quandary. That's the difference. Could you repeat the question? Oh, sweet. Thanks, James. Appreciate it, guys. Okay, so we are halfway through the target, and we are, how far along are we? So we're 1,300 words in, and we're an hour and 7 minutes, 67 minutes in. So we're doing okay. We're doing okay. I am still a little bit blah right now. So I'm gonna have Callum answer this question, and then I need to go for a walk, and then what I'll probably end up doing is splitting this into 2 sections. and we'll go through that. So I'm just going to finish this off so we can finish out this scene and show off how freaking smart Callum is, right? So the teacher right now has just asked him, what's the difference between morality? Well, he's going to ask him, what's the difference between morality and ethics, right? Um, what do you believe is the fundamental difference between morality and ethics? Now, because Callum's a boss, right, he's actually going to have an answer, which is going to be weird for a 13-year-old. Is Callum stood up to deliver his answer. I guess if I had to put words to it, I think morality is the study of what you think is important to for what is important in life. Like ethics is ethics is how you go about living it. Ethics is how you go about living according to that moral. Ethics is about how you go about living. Is how you choose to live. Is how you choose to live according to that morality. Now, of course, they're going to be dropping like all these names and stuff doing that. That's not it. This is just Callum's own personal view, and this is a big part of the book, right? So you're kind of going to know this is how you choose to live according to that morality. Mr. Connolly's eyes perked up a little. No doubt. Could you elaborate? Could you elaborate? Could you elaborate? Callum looked around and could see most of the kids probably were checked out and probably had no interest in what he was going to say. But maybe that was just his mind telling him that. Well, for instance, let's take something like abortion. Let's take something like abortion. Morale. Let's let's take something like a war. A bit of a hot topic, don't you think, Mr. MacArthur? Mr. MacArthur? That's that's why I thought about it. The difference between morale. That's why I thought about it to illustrate my to my thinking. Say, for instance, I believe, for instance, I believe, say for instance, I believe it is wrong to kill something, something senseless. That's my morality. That's my morality. However, however, my morality can be constant while my belief, while my ethics are changed with my beliefs. Say for instance, I believe a fetus is alive, and an abortion would be akin to murder. But let's say for I don't believe a fetus is a living person, and abortion doesn't doesn't necessarily doesn't necessarily go against. I don't know. But let's say I don't believe a fetus is a living person. Abortion doesn't necessarily go against. Now you might ask, why is he talking about abortion and stuff like that? Because it's actually a part of the story, right? So I'm kind of bringing it up now and planting a seed later because you learn a bit about Callum's backstory, right? And abortion doesn't get into murder. But let's say I don't believe a fetus is a living person, and abortion doesn't necessarily go against my belief that killing is wrong because you can't kill something that isn't alive. Kind of like eating eggs, right? Kind of like eating eggs, right? It I don't even know who thinks about that. Maybe I should ask my philosopher friend who would think like this so he can give me a philosopher to quote so the teacher can throw it back at him and be like, oh, so you think like this person. Kind of like eating eggs. Fetus is a living person. Kind of like eating eggs, right? I think this is why you can you have so many disagreements because people can have the same morals but wildly different ethics because of how they, of they believe is best according to their knowledge. Because you can't kill something that isn't alive. So no, I don't have, I don't care. care. I believe a fetus. However, my mind has been constant while my ethics are changed. Say for instance, while my ethics are changed with my beliefs. Say for instance, I believe a fetus is alive, then abortion would be akin to murder. But let's say I don't believe a fetus is a living person, then abortion doesn't necessarily go against my belief that killing is wrong. Callum said this: many the air felt like it was sucked out of the room, but he continued regardless. Let's say, for instance, let's say, for instance, I don't believe a fetus is a living person. Abortion doesn't necessarily go against my belief that killing is wrong because you can't kill something that isn't alive. Kind of like eating legs. The morals with bodily ethics because their knowledge of the world is so visible. And experience of the world is so different. Let's say for instance, I don't believe this is a living person. Is living. And say that. I've literally stuck to it. Wow. 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 Mr. McCarthy. Quickly. That's actually, where are you? That's actually what that means. Mr. Khan. Class. He was. Everyone. Everyone. Sure. So, 16. So we have 1,000 more words we're gonna do. So we're gonna take a pause. we've basically established that Calum's a smart guy. Let's pause here. So what are we doing? Um, so we're going to stop. So we are at 88. What are we at? We are at 82 minutes. So in our first heat, as it were, right, for our first writing session, I would say it was solid. I would rate it probably a 7 out of 10, right, just in terms of how I felt about it. And then I wrote for 82 minutes, and I got down, let's see, 1,626 words. Right? So if we go to our tracker, right, and I go on my tracker, so right now I would just put the minutes I would have and the words. The words go first and the minutes second. So the words I have 1626, right? And then right now I have 82, basically 83. It's 82 minutes and 48 seconds. So we'll say 83 minutes, right? Now that means I wrote about 1,176 words per hour, right? And that's how many more words I have left. So, and I said like the feeling, I'd say it was a 7 out of 10. Now I have a color coding system for how I feel during. So this is usually like if I'm editing straight up or if I'm doing that. But this one, I felt pretty good. So 7 out of 10, right? For that rating system. And everyone can just choose different colors. So I personally will do like blue, like everything is like heating up, right? So it's just like kind of like hot radiant. So like orange and red will be like the highest, and blue and green will kind of be in the middle, right? So like if I had to say here, I would say I was like yellow, right? Even though that wasn't here, so I must have do like messed it up. But that's what I'm gonna do moving forward with that radiant. So we're gonna say like a yellow, right? To say how I felt, right? And so like 8, 9, 10 feeling is gonna be like red, orange, right? Um, actually, let me see here, because this should be like like a 10, right? This will be like a 10, right? And then this will be like 8, 9, yeah. And this will be like 7, 6, and this will be like a 7, and this will be like a 5, green, and then blue, you know what I mean? And I know that's a little contradictory, but I just like the idea of heating up to see how hot or cold I was. And then that'll just sort of tell me, it kind of tells me where I'm at temperature wise, right? Actually, orange might be more appropriate, I think, because I was feeling more orange. I was feeling closer to better, but it was hard. I was feeling a little uncomfortable. Actually, no. Let me, yeah, let's go back to yellow because I was feeling pretty uncomfortable. And 83 minutes in, only got 1,600 words, so it was a little short of my goal. So I'm a little frustrated, but I paused it, and now promises are for the rest of NaNoWriMo, I'll probably hit this up. We'll call finish out the chapter, and go from there or whatever. But we've done 1,600 words, kind of meandered a little bit. So I've got to go do some work and stuff like that right now. But I want to appreciate you guys. I want to say thank you guys for coming in for the stream. And if you saw something useful, like hopefully it was good and like there was something decent and helpful in what you saw. And so, yeah, I just want to say thanks a ton. And then let me see here. Yeah, thanks a ton for your time. And then yeah, I'll just be cutting this off, and this will be every day. I'm gonna try and get like a more stable time. But yeah, it'll just be every day. You'll be kind of seeing me work as I work with the tracker, put in my time, and then just slowly build this thing out. And then by the end of the month, we should have the first draft of this novel kind of pat battened down and really taken care of. And so I'm hoping to hit some really strong streaks as we go along. I'll probably be doing more in the morning, and I'll be going to North America in the latter half of the month. So I think that'll probably help time wise because I think it's super early morning for you guys there, but it's afternoon here. So I'm excited, super pumped to keep going, and yeah, hope all is well. Stay happy, stay healthy, Peter Clapton, Oni Oniyabor, signing out.